told me some of the things that you discussed. So today we will see. Well, I'll catch up.
Okay, it's nothing elaborate. I mean, it's not, but it was very useful, and we will have a recording. So in case you would like to revisit.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Great. So I see that Sebastian is here. If it's possible to Teresa for him to give him also permission.
Yes, everyone has permissions now, I
Everyone?
think.
Perfect.
Yes, if you want to try, so we are sure, but I think...
Okay. Okay, so Francesca is here as well. Hi, Francesca.
Yes, good morning. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
Don't worry. Okay. So I think we are good to... we would like to welcome you to the second day of the Science Communication Workshop of PICO. The first day was dedicated to the narrative, to the storytelling part of how do we communicate different topics related to our main theme, meaning physics and astrophysics, to different target groups, different target audiences. I remember very fondly that one of the questions was yesterday, how would you explain the atom to a 90-year-old person? And then how would you explain the black hole to an 8-year-old person? So my computer is lagged. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. For some reason, my monitor has lagged. Okay, so today we are going to focus actually on engagement. Engagement with the audiences, the tools we use, and the way we design our activity in order to obtain the most from our approach. So to this end, this is the first hour. The second hour is dedicated to equity, diversity, accessibility, and inclusion. So I will, together with Sebastian Greenspoon from IFI, we are going to lead this part, and we will start with some slides from Sebastian, in which he will share some of his activities, and then we will go on with the Mentimeter. So, Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. My intention here is in 5-10 minutes, I would like to share with you a couple of activities that we do in which we trigger interaction in, I would say, a particular way. Okay, it's just a way of giving some examples to motivate new ways of thinking about the activities that we do. In the image that you see now, you are seeing a projection of image taken by a telescope, and you see some kids that are putting using the projection to draw onto in some paper whatever they want to draw, galaxies, stars, whatever. So the activity starts really as an art activity. So they choose which part of the image they like. They put the paper on, so it's projected on the paper, and they can draw, copying the projection. And from there, we start a dialogue. What did you choose? The biggest, the smallest? What do you think this is? Is it a star? Or maybe it's a galaxy? Do you think you can see planets with this? It's very low level introduction. It's really triggered, the conversation is really triggered by what they choose. It doesn't start as a science activity, it starts as an art activity, I would say. But then, because they are surrounded by scientists, the dialogue is steered into our area of knowledge. Because there's plenty of things we can say about this image, and because the kids are engaged with the image because they have worked in it, and they like drawing, then there's plenty of things we can share with them. And questions arise, and dialogue is promoted in this way. So the way to promote engagement here is by them starting to do things, not by us starting to do things. There's a similar approach in the next example I would like to give you, which is exemplified by this picture, in which we see sort of, we call it a lab. It's a place full of recycled materials and also projectors. In this case, there is these old slides projectors. And the kids are invited to build a telescope with the recycled materials. There's plenty of plastics in there and cables and all the stuff we can gather. Then we take them and they can glue it, and then they can put some paper colors and play with some lights. They are trying to build a make-believe telescope. But they are surrounded by people who actually build telescopes. So we can talk about what a telescope is. We can talk about what a telescope needs. What are the challenges of seeing things that are really far away? What is the challenges of working with light that travels through the cosmos, and not only light also? Maybe there are other kind of information we can get from the cosmos. So again, interaction is triggered because by their activity, they like to have plenty of things and glue and everything to put it all together. But we are able to steer the conversation into our realm and talk about telescopes. Then the drawings that you see is because we ask them to, okay, so if this telescope that you built, what does it see? So they can draw it and project it in there. It's a similar approach. Art is the first, or craft is the first step, then science comes along. Third example here, we are surrounded by kids and their parents and plenty of Lego bricks. And the activity is, yeah, just join us. You can build whatever you want with the Lego bricks. Yesterday, in the activity that you did, Lego bricks was used several times as a metaphor for atoms. Also, it can be a metaphor for particles. So when they are starting to build things, maybe one builds a dinosaur and the other one builds a tree, and then we have also a car. But maybe they haven't realized that they all have the same pieces, and we don't have plenty of pieces types. There are only like 14 different kinds of pieces. So we start to making them notice that you are using the same pieces, but you are building different things. And okay, it all started with their aim to use Lego bricks and build things, but then we start to steer the conversation into what is stuff made of. Then we can talk about our research and maybe where does it all come from. Okay, these are just 3 examples that I wanted to share with you in order to sort of motivate the discussion that we will have now. In the sense, which is how can we trigger the interaction? Okay.
Thank you, Sebastian, for this very nice presentation. Do we have any question, comment before we proceed to the next one?
Can I ask something? It's slightly on the side. So first of all, Sebastian, this is amazing. Like it fantastic. We never really do anything like this, so interactive, and these are wonderful ideas. Just a tiny question. Do you ever do something like this for slightly older kids, like high school? Do you have any on-the-spot idea on how to translate this to engage like 15 years old?
Well, we do. It's a bit more involved, because we have a simulation of particle interactions and particle decays. Okay, in our center we work a lot with particle physics. Okay, so what we do is that we share with them this in a big projection, and we, by chatting with them, we are able, they are able to extract, to use their intuition to see some of the physical laws that are in the process. Because the simulation is it's interactive with plenty of colors. Every color means something. They start to figure out that, wow, every time a green comes in, then 2 blues comes out. Things like this. This is the kind of intuition that they start working on. And then we put a name into the green. We put a name to the blue. And so they are able, I mean, they are really intuitive. They see things and they can find patterns everywhere, okay? But the patterns, they don't know the names of the things. So we start to share with them how they are called. I don't know. This is what we do with 15-year-old.
Understand.
We don't do this art approach so much.
Right. So it's less manual, let's say. It's more conceptual in a way.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, I will proceed with sharing my screen. I have tapped in that the link I would like you to follow. Go to www.menti.com and write the code that is below that. And we will start from there. I hope I don't do any blunder because I have little experience with Mentimeter, but I saw yesterday that it was very useful. So I think that it might be good to have it as well. Okay, so we will start actually with a question for you, a short one. First of all, can everyone see? Is everyone in the slide that I have here?
Yes.
Okay, so as every one of us will be doing something different or maybe similar, it might be important to describe very briefly with a few words what activity we will do. It will be, for example, a booth for neutrino astronomy, to say. While we do it, it's important to discuss a bit the goals that we have. When I say goals, I mean I wanted to get participants interested in new discoveries in astrophysics, for example, something like this. So let's take a couple of minutes to type this and continue from there.
Manolis, I'm sorry. Do we do it like yesterday? So in the chat in Zoom or directly on the web page?
Directly on the website.
Okay, okay, thanks.
I think we have a 200 character limit, so we don't want the full detail, just a sentence. Okay, great. We have started having some answers. Let's take a couple of minutes more. So, as people write, maybe we can comment a little bit. I would start with a goal. So, two of the activities appear to have as a goal to fascinate people and to inspire, especially kids, to follow a career in physics. There is one which says that the goal is to help people understand their work. So we focus on knowledge. The first one, I think that the first one is Sebastian.
Yes.
Okay. So your goal, therefore, is to cover a broad range of topics, correct?
Yes, it's topics that we research in our center, and we just have a different booth that gives you a glimpse of things. One is we're really with an instrument, then it's a simulation, and then it's this Lego model.
Okay. Okay. So you see that we see that there are many different types of activities, but mostly the goal is to communicate modern topics of research and to inspire and fascinate. If would anyone like to elaborate further a bit on what they have written, what you will do, and so on?
I can try to. I can start. We have mostly school kids, high school students that will be coming in, and in every booth, what they will find is a glimpse of a particular part of the research that we do. Somehow it's all connected because at the end the same questions are being trying to be answered by the different approaches. The main objective is that they see that there's more than what they normally are aware of. There's more. They might be. Maybe they have heard that these kind of things are researched somewhere, but they don't know that this is also research near their school.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Would anyone else like to add something about their booth and so on, or about their goals?
I can go, but I don't want to talk all the time. So we don't know what public we will have. That's the main point, in the sense that it's open to everyone. And my feeling is that it could be like maybe families and maybe university students. And so the idea is that it is simple enough for everyone to understand. And contrary to what Sebastian showed before, we cannot put in place I call them so that's me, actual workshop in the sense of really making people take the time to do things. But we will have like a space-time like cloth, I would call it, with like balls and stuff. And so whether you have your 5 or 50, I think it doesn't really change the fun that you can have, like throwing a ping pong ball and see it spiraling, this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And the idea is that it's really, it makes sense to do the tour, and you start from what is gravitation and you end up with the GV signals in the detector, something like that. Don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So after making this first introduction, let's go to the next slide. And the next question is, what are the types of audience you expect? We already have 12 answers here. Well, So you have already answered this question. I'm sorry, but okay. Okay. So we see that the most prominent categories are families and students. Okay. I see researchers of other areas as well. Astronomy enthusiasts and amateur astronomers. Okay. Graduate students, university students. Okay. So based on your answers, this means that you more or less expect a mixed age group, right?
Yes.
Okay. Therefore, this means that you need to diversify a little bit your narrative in order to be able to engage both the young and the older. We have a message. Yes. Okay. So, very well. If you remember from yesterday, the age of the participants is important both in terms of their understanding of the several concepts, because you remember it was a different way to present to a 90-year-old fellow or to an 8-year-old kid, as well as their attention span. It varies from person to person. So this is something that we need to take into account. Let's proceed now. Okay, so based on the activities that you have in mind to do, and the audience that you expect to have in your event, I would like to ask you what type of activities you consider most engaging for your audience. For example, will a talk, I don't know, an observation night, things that you will do that you believe would be the most engaging for your type of audience. If you could, let's say, together with the activity right, for example, family, it would be helpful because this way we can compare somehow different approaches for similar audiences. Okay, I see we have 12 responses. So let's start discussing this a little bit. So I see that we have uh, hands-on interactive experiments. They are a group of their own. We have Q&A, quiz games, ask questions. These are as well together. So we can have, let's say, two broad categories. The one in interactive exhibits, so to say, hands-on activities. The other to be Q&A and quizzes. the other has to do with some visually appealing way in order to engage teens mostly. So visually appealing teens, videos, beautiful images, um, also video again. I see that some of you have selected hands-on for children and for families. Would you do the same for teens or for older people? Okay. Julia said yes. Yes, perfect. Perfect, perfect. So now take and regarding teens, I mean, do you believe that the teens would be mostly interested in the visual aspect or also in the conversation, let's say, part? You can use that, please talk. I mean, don't, if this helps. Okay, so I think the main message here is that the different types of activities for different audiences, but also some for overlapping audiences, which are important. So as we design activity uh, for the researchers' night, a booth, for example, we need to take all this into account in order to engage our audiences. So this will take us to the next question, which is the following. Assume now, for a moment, that you design a generic booth for your researchers' night event, based into what we have already seen and written. What are the ingredients that you would use in order to facilitate your communication with the audience? You can select more than one options here. Okay, I see that we already have some answers, and it appears that the consensus is that most booths here are expected to consist of a poster, a big monitor showing a video so that we capture the visually appealing part, and also simple and interactive exhibits in order to engage people. I was wondering, regarding laptops with PowerPoint presentations and so on, do you consider it not important? What is your view on that? Or leaflets, let's say.
Shall I go again?
Yeah.
To me, no, there was a hand. No, I'm sorry. Go on.
Sorry, thank you. I wouldn't select a laptop with a PowerPoint presentation because there should be someone there always showing the presentation, and knowing when or when someone will jump in halfway through the presentation. That's why I personally I would avoid the laptop. When you can show, you can have the same effect using a video, which will always play in the background, and then it will leave you unengaged in with the activities. You can engage with the people. In my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much. Evie?
So I would say that it depends on how are you gonna use the PowerPoint presentation. You can either do it that way that Alex said previously, like someone has to change slides in order and do a guided presentation, or you can prepare your slides that are general ones, and put them in the mode that they are changing. So it's like a video, but a more static one. So you have the information, but it's just changing in the background. So that's my view. Like you can use PowerPoint, but you can use it in a more like video way, in like a replacement of a video if you don't have time to create something, or it depends on what's your time, what's your skills, or the content that you have.
Thank you, Evie. Thank you very much. May I ask regarding leaflets or other? So no one has voted that, but Julia, 1 second only to ask the question, and then the floor is yours. But wouldn't you like, for example, to give a handout to people to to help them browse your website, for example, or a QR code to do and so on? So the floor is yours.
I wanted to say about the leaflet exactly. So maybe a QR code, it's nice, but I would maybe put it on the wall or something like that, because a leaflet to me takes a humongous time to be created, resources to be printed out. By the way, waste of resources like paper, ink, and all of that. And according to my personal experience as a user, not as a presenter, you're given this thing, you look it for 10 seconds, and then you're left with this thing in your hand. You go out and you put it in the trash. And I think it's a waste of resources, and it takes a long time to be created. It's not very effective. You can just put like a QR code on a poster or on the wall or something like that. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Yeah, Manolis, may I?
Yeah, of course.
No, just this is true, but don't forget that kids, especially very young kids, they don't have likely smartphone. And for example, activity at school, they don't have the opportunity to use the smartphone, so the QR code is not effective. For this reason, for example, since we have some pre-night activities at school, we have printed postcards. The kids can write the postcards, that is also nice for them, and then if they want, they can send the postcard to, I don't know, grandparents, friends, and this is also a way to disseminate the project to us, I mean, in our idea.
Thank you, Francesca. Okay, so I think that the distribution here demonstrates what everyone considers most important and least important. I would like to ask some of the people with long experience in organizing such events, for example, Vincenzo, Giada. What would you comment on that? What would your guideline be on that?
Can I?
Of course.
Okay, no, I think that
We don't really hear you.
We cannot hear you very well, Vincenzo.
Yeah, we don't hear you.
Maybe you can write in the chat box.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Maybe until Vincenzo's microphone is fixed, maybe Giada, would you like to give a comment on that selection of participants?
Yeah, so in previous European Researchers Night, we have always put attention on having some exhibit and especially some interactive exhibits. Personally, I would say that's the most important thing because talking to researcher is one important aspect, but then also people like to have something to do when they visit your stand. Posters for me are less interesting, much less interesting. They require you to read, you're just passing by. Especially in the way that European Researcher Nights are usually organized in Italy, I think they work less. Same with the PowerPoint's presentation. While a big monitor showing a video, if you have the possibility to bring a monitor and a stand to where you're doing European Researchers Night, which is not always obvious, but if you have it, then that's nice because you can put a nice engaging video and that works better. So I let's say I mostly agree with the choices that were made in terms of prioritizing.
Perfect. Thank you, Giada. Vincenzo, can you? Okay. Okay. Then maybe we proceed to the next question, and maybe we can have the opportunity to have an overall discussion.
Sorry,
Yes,
sorry. I fix. I'm sorry. No, I was talking by myself. I didn't realize that you were not listening to me. So okay, I'm sorry. No, I have another small general comment. So in general, I think okay, I agree. I listen a bit to what Giada said, but anyway, in general, I agree that these answers are fine, and there is a general awareness of the variety of tools that we need. But I would like shortly recover the inspiration that Sebastian gave us at the beginning. So the proposal of Sebastian at the beginning, I think, show a very interesting approach. That the possibility to start from something completely different, or partly not or apparently not connected with the topics that we want to tell to the public. So starting from like kind of chance object or object is again, there are very daily life object or anyway are something that again are not apparently connected to what we want to say. That's, I think, is a very interesting approach that could be used also without a preparation or without several tools, as in the example that Sebastian showed. So I just suggest to reflect also on that possibility. So to show something that is there by chance, and then starting from there, you can tell a story. I think that's very very effective for kids, but also for adults, because in a sense, there is inside the sense of the discovery. So to give a sense of discovery to people is important. It's also very well connected to the way science works. So that's just my suggestion. So please do not be focused just on the objective, but okay, the path could be also a bit more not complicated, but not so direct to your objective. And I think, again, the example of Sebastian was very cool in this sense.
Thank you very much, Vincenzo. Thank you very much. So, taking this into account, let's proceed to the next one. Now, in this question, we focused a little bit on how we interact with participants. So we have three options, but these are not necessarily the only ones. The first one is the guided, the unguided option, the free choice option. So you let people come, explore the materials and ask questions and take it from there. The second one is when people come to you, you have a prescribed narrative and you work with that. And the third one is a mix of the two, depending on age and number of visitors. So how would you facilitate interaction with visitors in your booth? I see we already have our majority showing the results. Okay. So you believe it depends on what? On the attitude of people coming, the age? I mean, how would you, yeah, what prompts you to select that option? Mhm. Okay, so Julia says that they don't have walk-in activities that people can just explore. So you follow a more guided approach, correct? Okay, I see. So in general, when there are hundreds or thousands of people who visit the researchers' night, they just come many times, they see something, they ask a question, and they go. So many times this is a touch and go approach. This is a bouncing approach. So one needs to take into account that sometimes you need to provoke them to keep them engaged. Okay, so these are, from my experience, we had, if you didn't capture their attention with something interactive in which they would come and actively explore, especially kids, they would just have a look and, go to the next booth. I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but maybe this is important to have a look. Okay. Let's proceed to the next question now. Okay, so this is a little bit more theoretical, and I would like to apologize for that. This, about 15 years ago, our American colleagues came up with a framework in order to assess the experience of participants in informal learning environments. Informal learning meaning not a classroom, a museum, a zoo, a researcher's night activity, whatever. So they created what we call the 6 strands of science proficiency, which respond, let's say, to 6 main goals that you may have when you organize such an event. So it might be redundant based on what we have said before, but I would like to ask you to have a look at these 6 strands and rate them according to what you consider most important. A brief description, the first 2, I think that they are pretty clear. The third one, called the facilitation of better scientific reasoning, means that when people come to your stand, let's say, it's not just that they learn that black holes exist, but they are able to reason, to explain something new, that black holes have a pull so strong that they also attract light, for example. Reflecting on science means that they are able to reflect on how science is done and on how all the institutions of science work, how a scientist works, and so on. Nature of science. Tools and language of science means that when they come and interact with you, they can say that, okay, I used a telescope. Now I can tell what an accelerator is. Okay, now I have seen what an interferometer looks like, and so on. And the fifth one is related to that they see themselves as science learners and potential scientists, actually, after the interaction with you. So let's wait a little bit. Okay, so based on the answers that we already have, the most prominent category is interest in science, something that we expected. Now, something that I didn't expect was to see the second option, the facilitation of better scientific reasoning. And while knowledge is in the fifth place. So would you like to reflect a little bit on that? Alex, yes, please.
Yeah, it's one of my higher options. From personal experience, I should say, not so great, but from friends or family, I see that they are more interested in science when they see for themselves that they can actually understand. Because for many people, it's science feels like something strange, something that only the very smart people can do. But I have seen that when you explain something and they can understand it, they are more prompt to research it further for themselves because they don't feel stupid, they don't feel dumb, and they feel that this is a subject that they can actually approach.
Okay. Okay, thank you. But let me ask you this. Assuming that you have a person staying in your booth for 2 minutes, and in your booth you present, I don't know, gravitational waves. Do you believe that within 2 minutes you will be able to help facilitate better scientific reasoning?
I believe that you can start with something small, and then the 2-minute visit will not be a 2-minute visit.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Well said. Would someone else like to add something here regarding your selection, your prioritization? Okay. If not, I would like to focus a little bit on the fifth part, well, the fifth priority, the scientific knowledge, meaning awareness mostly of topics. It has been observed that most informal learning activities from literature actually affect interest and knowledge. And this has to do with the role of informal learning to inspire, and also the fact that we cannot give in-depth knowledge of the subject as you would get if you got into a university or a school, right? So these are two things that are related to the time constraints and the nature of the environment that we have that you need to take into account. Scientific reasoning and reflection on science, even though they are most important, they require time that we, in many cases, don't have. So we need to think on that. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so this is something that we don't need to do in a written format. This is something that we can do as part of our dialogue as we come close of this part. So, what means will you use to spark participants' interest in your booth, in your activity? How will you engage these people? How will you attract them and hold them? If you would like to write, please write. Or if you would like to discuss, please do.
I'm sorry, Manolis, but I don't think I get the question in the sense. Let me explain.
Excuse me?
I'm not sure I understand in the sense that, for instance, in our particular case, there is just us. So basically, how you attract them is through communication, the website and everything, and they have to register. And then when they come, they know what to expect. So we don't have like 100 booths, and then you have to compete with others. I've never done this kind of activities where there were a lot of things to do.
I get it. I understand that. But so this is one type of event where people who are actually interested, they will come because they know what you present. But in a more generic event where people don't only visit your institution, the free space is a bit larger, let's say. How would you attract them? How would you bring them there? How would you keep them engaged? Experiments. Okay. Experiments is a very good option, actually, a very good answer. Hands-on activities. Games quizzes, okay. Very nice. So the interactive part, actually, interactivity is the key, let's say, according to these answers, in order to engage people. This is something that everyone has highlighted before, so it is quite important to stick to that. If you have an interactive exhibit, something that they can play with to help explain what you do, this will keep them engaged. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is more or less a similar question regarding knowledge. So, in order to facilitate knowledge acquisition, what do you consider most important? How would you facilitate it? How would you help people do that? Acquire scientific knowledge or, achieve your knowledge goals. Analogies, okay. Anyone else? Maybe, for example, do you believe it's the facilitator or it is also the tools that they use? For example, you might have a Carl Sagan in your team who could explain everything with an amazing way. But you might have also someone who is not Carl Sagan, but they have a very nice video and a nice exhibit. So What do you consider most important? Visualization experiments. Okay. Okay, so as we are closing the first part of this meeting, I would like to, first of all, to thank you for your answers. It appears that the generic consensus is that all our activities should have a most interactive component, visually appealing. Okay. The fact that interest is the most important translates into how we select the tools that we will build our booth, okay, with, for example, again, exhibits and so on. And it's important to reflect a little bit on how we want to talk to people in order to acquire better knowledge. So we have, I think, 2 minutes before we go to the next part. So maybe it might be a good point now or later to discuss some real life stories from previous activities in order to share a little bit the backstage of what being a presenter in such an environment looks like. I will share one very brief, and if someone else would like to share, this would be very nice. So a couple of years ago, I was running a booth on neutrino astronomy in a researchers' night event, and we had thousands of people. It was a university environment in Greece. We have thousands of people who were coming to the university. And in order for us to have our booth visited, we had a big monitor showing a big video of a neutrino telescope. We had a laptop with an interactive citizen science activity, and so on. The experience was that people who didn't see something to play with hands-on, they wouldn't visit. So, but out of the people who visited, we had to, in order, when they asked us, what is this? What is this blue glow that you see in the video? We had to have a narrative ready, 2-3 minute long narrative, in order to keep people informed about the different parts. And when people were coming en masse, we had to keep repeating and repeating and repeating without time to differentiate. So a parameter that we would like to say here is the narrative. And the fact that the time that we have might be limited. So time versus goals versus and so on. If anyone would like to say something. Alexandra, you had something, you're sharing something. Would you like to say about that?
No, I forgot to push the send button from the conversation we had before about the facilitating scientific reasoning, and that's what I posted.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share a story of what they experienced in previous researchers' night activities they have facilitated?
I would like to say something. Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't put my hand on. Well, this will be my first time to be in this night, but all my colleagues that they were in Rhodos in a previous sorry about my English. It's my first time in a meeting, so
Don't worry. Don't worry.
okay. There was a night again in Rhodos in 2022, 2022. And the result was that, from what I heard, that the most successful booth was the one with the experiments. And the booths that they had, something that the children could, touch, ask for questions about them. And generally, when they wanted to not just see in a monitor explaining something, they have to interact with the things they wanted to learn. Sorry about my English again.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
Yes.
Alexandra, yes.
According to that comment, I think that basically when we want someone to learn something, we want him or her to create a new experience. So that is why they learn better when they are involved, they are evolving, they are actually doing something. They help with an experiment because it's a new experience for them. It's not just like, okay, I saw a video and then I went on with my day. So that's it. We want them to use more of their senses, not only to see and hear, but to touch.
Very well. Thank you, Alexandra. Evie?
So this experience is not from a previous research night, but it is from in the observatory when some people from high school came to show them some stuff in Aristotle University. That you were thinking that, okay, they would know what a star is or something like that. But when you're starting talking about stars and they have a totally different idea formed in their heads, and you realize, okay, so I have to build it from scratch in a way in order to give them the true picture of a scientific accurate, but at the same time more approachable one. So my point here is like to not take for granted what people know, even if they are like high school or mid school or older or younger.
Thanks. Okay, so you say that people actually come with their own ideas about the different topics. Which ideas might be far from far from reality. So you need to somehow fish for these ideas and try to help them, guide them through your activities to see the more scientific perspective. Correct?
Yes, and yes, don't take for granted what they know or what they don't know, in a way.
Okay. Thank you, Evie. So maybe we will have some time also to reflect and sum up in the end. I would like to thank you for the first hour, and also Francesca has shared the questionnaire. So please take some time to fill it at the end of the meeting or before you go. Now I pass the baton to Julia and Francesca for the second part of our activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manolis. So in the program, we foresee a little coffee break, but I wanted to know how you feel, if you want to just go on as we did yesterday so that we don't finish too late, or if you prefer to actually take a break. Anyone?
It's fine to go.
Okay. Okay, then. So last, but I hope not least, it's the part about inclusion, diversity, accessibility. This part will be slightly more frontal as an approach because I really need to share some things with you. So let me share. Okay, can you see my slides? Can you actually see them full screen?
We can see it. Yeah, now it's
okay. So
Yeah.
okay, so this is work package 3. And oh God, okay, now it works. So the reason why I need to be slightly more, yeah, like normal talk is that what I'm about to present is actually one of our deliverables. And I invite you all to take a look at this document that we produced back in July. It's called the PICO set of EDI, which is Equity, Diversity, Accessibility, and Inclusion Guidelines. In case you don't have access, just like drop me a line. It's an easy read because it's really guidelines. It's not meant to be like an academic paper, but it does include extensive bibliography. So if you have any curiosity and so on and so forth, and the guidelines that are there, because we presented them to the European Commission, I will present to you. But before we go into the guidelines, I'm sure that everybody in this audience is completely aware of the things I will present. And I'm confident that we agree. However, I wanted to guide you through a little tour of what we're discussing. So let me start with this, and then we will comment. This is a video from a TED Talk, and it only lasts 1 minute.
Let's start with a brain exercise.
Can you all see and hear the video?
Yes.
Okay. Oops, no, not what I wanted to do. Okay, just a sec.
Let's start with a brain exercise. I'm going to ask you to visualize 3 scenarios. The visualization part is very important. So please close your eyes, take a deep breath.
Please
and
do the
imagine
exercise with her.
You're late to catch a flight. You rush through the airport, you make it through security, you run to the gate, you make it down the jetway, you step on the plane just as they close the door behind you, and the pilot steps out of the cockpit to say hi. You get to your destination, you go to a local restaurant, and you have the best meal of your life. And really enjoy this. There's no calories in visualization. And at the table next to you is a couple happily celebrating their anniversary. The next morning, you go to the biggest technology conference in the world, and the CEO of this year's hottest tech startup just took the stage to speak. Now you should have a solid picture of all of that. So open your eyes, because I have some questions for you. In your
Just a sec. Did you guys try and follow? And do you have a picture in your head that you imagine? Just say yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's finish
image. Was the pilot black? Was the married couple 2 men? Did the tech CEO on stage look like me?
Okay. So again, your comments. Can you reply to the question she asked? What did you visualize? Hello.
white pilot, not a gay couple, and yes, the CEO was a female.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
Same here.
Including the female CEO?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Anybody else?
The same. White pilot, an elderly couple, and a fat man, white fat man. That's it.
That's very good. So obviously that's fine, right? We're not here to judge your visualization, but what do you think we are getting to? What does this mean in your opinion? Why did we all share mostly the same images? What do you think?
Well, to be honest, in my experience traveling, I've never met a pilot, a black pilot. This is for the pilot. Regarding the couple married, maybe it's because in my experience, a married couple are not gay couple, but it's just, I mean, something very superficial. And regarding the CEO, because he's a female, maybe just because she's speaking, she looks like a CEO.
Which is exactly right. She's talking about herself, indeed. Anybody else wants to comment on how this exercise made them feel and what afterthoughts do you have now? Let me check the chat. It's because we have stereotypes. Okay. Yes. But how do you feel now afterwards? Like you had your visualization, then she says that. How does it make you feel? But there's no right or wrong answer. We are trying to work on our perception. That's the basics of what we're doing.
I think it's not only the stereotypes. I think each of those three questions represent a different thing. For example, yes, the pilot, it's about the stereotypes. But for example, I think about the couple that maybe someone that is gay would imagine a gay couple, for example, because it's what he would want to see, or it's something closer to them because they experience that specific thing. For example, and the second thing, even if in general we would maybe imagine the CEO to be a man, some would think about a man, but most of us thought about a woman because we see a woman that fits.
Yes.
So
yes.
Question represent a different thing, and is a different reason why we thought about that specifically.
Completely, yes, completely to the point.
Context matters.
Nikki, I'm sorry, you don't like what exactly, the exercise as a whole, or what is that you don't like?
No, sorry, I don't like what I was imagining. I mean, I don't like that I have those stereotypes, you can say, or what I usually see. I agree with Francesca that when she said that I haven't seen a black pilot, or in the movies we watch, I rarely see a black pilot, or usually because young people have no time for dinner. That's why I imagine an elderly couple having a dinner, that they have time, so they having a good time. And yes, for the lady CEO, usually in my mind, there's a man. Oh, I mean, that's usually what happens. That's why I don't like it, what I thought, in
I
my
had the
first...
same reaction as you. That's what, yeah. So I had, as everybody else, I'm guessing, here, I had the exact same images. And as soon as she said it, I really disliked the fact that my mind went there. But it did, right? So I would say, talking for myself, or for us, the people that replied, that we are good intentioned people that have some awareness, and yet our images were the same as everybody else. So let me go forward, if I can. Okay, so everything that we just experienced is absolutely normal, is nothing, how can I say, exceptional, but it's what is called unconscious biases, and everybody has them, okay? And it's not a problem per se. So what happens is what Francesca described, right? We have an input, like a person, a situation, a visualization, whatever it is, that goes through something that we, as physicists, we can call like a transfer function that is made of many things. Is made of our experiences, is made of the context, like we're seeing a woman, is made of our social environment. Like a Greek person, a French person, an American person wouldn't probably have the exact same image. And what comes out, in this case, our visualization, is our output, right? So the idea, the image that we create in a split second of that person, of the situation. And here is where possible stereotypes jump in. So I guess you know what a bias is, but the very important distinction is between a self-aware bias. So it's something that I am able to recognize that I'm completely aware of, and so I can take an action on it, versus unconscious biases. There are instinctive reactions. These are images, as you saw, that we create very quickly. We're not aware of them. As Nikki said, like, I did have that image, and when I was made aware of that, I didn't like it, but still I had it, right? And so the problem is that often we can act on those reactions without really controlling them, without checking them, okay? So I'm going quickly because I know we don't have much time. What I wanted to show you is that unconscious biases are really, really, how can I say, like, they are everywhere, which is fine. By the way, I just wanted to mention, unconscious biases is the thing that saved us from being eaten by lions. So it's not a bad thing in per se. Like, I see an animal that looks dangerous in the distance. I do not take the time to get to know the animal. I run, right? So I'm not judging anything. But in our modern society, where usually lions don't roam the streets, we may have the same reactions towards a person that looks in a certain way. And then is not okay anymore. And what I'm showing here is one of the many, many, many studies that were made. It's just an example that shows that unconscious, unchecked biases have very strong effects on real life. I'm sorry, I'm checking your chat. Yes, absolutely. There are plenty. I'm just showing one because I think it's very relevant to us. So basically what you see here is that two identical fake CVs were sent to real life professors. Now, this is in the US, but it doesn't change across at least the Western world, in biology, chemistry, and physics. And these professors were both male and female, and they were not, they didn't have relevant conscious biases, right? Okay. The two CVs were completely identical except for the name. One was a male name and one was a female name. And they were applying for, I can't remember if it was a postdoc position or like a technician in a lab or something like that. And you can see the results. Independently of the gender of the person that was judging, the male student got better scores all across the board. Competence, ability, and the willingness of the professor to mentor this person, and the salary offer that they were comfortable proposing to this person. Again, same exact CV, only difference the name. This is the effect of unconscious, unchecked biases, okay? So, if I can move forward. If you have questions, jump in, please. So, obviously, the subject of diversity, of inclusion, of equity is humongous. And as you know, in physics particularly, we have strong unbalances between men and women, between categories of people, between origins, between social, economical background, and so on and so forth. Obviously, we're not addressing all of these. Causes are very complex. We don't have a unique answer, but what we can act on is mainly two things, is stereotypical threat and representation and visibility. So these three concepts go together. So unconscious biases, as you saw, can cause stereotypes that in turn make some people feel less than, that's the stereotypical threat, which makes them not go towards some subjects, which makes representation and visibility harder. As you said, I never saw a black pilot, right? And this in turn reinforces the unconscious biases that we all share. Is that clear what I'm trying to say? I hope so. So yes. Stereotypical threat and representation and visibility are two easy enough, in quotes, elements that we can address when we do scientific outreach, okay? We cannot solve the problem our own, but we can contribute. Okay, so let's talk about representation and models. Now, this hopefully was the past. I just wanted to show you, because I think when we saw things, they strike us and they shock us, and I want to shock you. So on the left-hand side is one old physics book that was given to students. And you can easily see the images that portray women versus the images that portray men, okay? Even more shockingly, on the right-hand side, these are two examples from French culture. Let's call it culture. So on the top, you see babies' clothes from Petit Bateau, which is a brand that is everywhere. And so obviously, for the girls, you have to be pretty, you have to be loving, you have to be cute. And for the boy, you have to be strong, you have to be brave, you have to be smart. I mean, this was a few years back, not 2 centuries ago. On the bottom, and this is even worse, it was canceled. This campaign was canceled. So this is a campaign from the National Ministry of Public Education to recruit people. Now, Laura, she's all dressed in very neutral beige, pinkish colors, laid back, reading a book that we can imagine is a novel. And what the ad says is that Laura found the job of her dreams, right? Julian, on the other side, is, you see, like dark cold colors with this very professional executive shirt, all forward in his laptop, where we imagine he's doing very important business. And Julian didn't find the job of his dreams. On the opposite, he found a job that is at the level of his ambition. So it's the job that needs to comply with Julian's ambition, while Laura can only dream of having such a job. So this was about representation. About stereotypical threat, which is also incredibly important in our kind of activities. I suppose you might know what it is, but I prefer to explain again. So the stereotypical threat, which is a very well-studied phenomenon in social psychology, means that when a person is made aware of a negative stereotype that concerns one or multiple of their identities, you're a woman, you are Black, Asian, whatever, they perform according to that stereotype, okay? So obviously, the more stereotypes you sum up, the stronger the threat. Is it clear what I'm trying to say? Please comment or say something, because I never know if you follow.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because sometimes I may not explain myself very well. So as you see in the plot, again, this is only one of the many studies that have been made. The point is that some students were asked to perform a math exam. So in the left-hand side, so where it says high threat, the students were activated by the professors present on the threat that women are less good in maths than boys. And while on the other side, there was no threat. So nothing was activated in the students, okay? And you can see that the performances are shockingly different, okay? So why am I telling you this? Because very subtle messages, body languages, attitudes that we transmit not only convey a stereotype, but they have a very concrete, very real effect on how the public will listen to you, will absorb and retain the information you give them. Okay. So what are our guidelines? So first of all, just some definitions, maybe it's useful. about what inclusion, equity, and diversity is, and then Francesca will approach the chapter of accessibility. So inclusion implies, obviously, fostering a fair access to everyone, right? Equity, obviously, is not the same as equality. Equality means giving, like, treating everybody in the same way, which is not fair, actually. So the difference is that equity implies that you make an effort to correct and counteract the existing privileges to grant equal opportunities to everyone, while equality is blind to existing privilege. Diversity in the term of, in how can I say, in this context, is very much connected to the identity of people. So every one of us has a specific combination of different identities that make them unique. And so diversity means that in any given group of people, we do share some of our identities, while some others are different. And we need to foster an environment where all the identities are equally welcome. So in general, in science, in science culture, the goal should be that we create an environment where everyone feels not just welcome, but feels that they belong, based on personal interest, dedication, talent, and regardless of any of their identities. Do you have any comments on these definitions and these concepts? Do we all agree on them?
Yeah.
Okay. If you are not, like, if you don't agree, I would be very interested in hearing it, because these are not like truth, like, of religion, so we can discuss all of this. Okay, so I go to the guidelines. So we drafted some practical, more or less, guidelines for all of our activities. And I would like you to, of course, you can read them on your own, but I would like to go through them with you just to give you some pointers. So the first ones are very generic, but I feel are also the most important ones. And that's why I started with that exercise. So we should always take a moment and a step back before and during the interaction with the public to check our instinctive reactions. It goes a long way to just step back and feel our feelings and check, as Nikki was saying, check if we agree on a conscious level with our first reaction, and then take the route of what we agree with. I hope that's clear. Which also implies that we need to steer clear of judgment and don't be too quick to judge. And what I mean is that we might think that we know the people in front of us based on their age, their social group, the way they're dressed, the way they behave, but we actually don't know them, right? And so we should make sure that we don't act based on the assumptions that we made, based on how they look and how they talk, okay? When I say be aware of cultural difference, this is slightly different. Of course, it goes in the same direction, but this is more practical. So please keep some awareness of the fact that we do not, in a public, we do not all share the same cultural references, even pop culture, even TV series or films. Depending on the age of the audience, depending on where they come from, they might not get some of the references. Also, stay open to their attitude means in some cultures, some ways of talking don't mean the same as they do with us. So don't get offended, don't react too quickly. And also language. I say this because in France, in Paris, it's very common that the people that you have in front of you may not have your language as their first language. And so try and be clear, try and be simple. And if people ask you to repeat, make an effort to maybe change the words they're using and say the same thing, but with different examples and with different wording, okay? Because maybe they just didn't get the actual term you were using. Okay. So role models is very in fashion. it's important, but there are some precautions to be taken. Okay, so there is a general consensus that is more effective to present to the public a diverse image of the scientific community, because as we all know, everybody as the pilot, right? Most people imagine a white man in its 50s or 60s being slightly crazy with his hair in the air. Now, we know that this image is just part of it. And so it's way more effective to be the difference than to talk about the difference. Which also means that we should be very cautious in presenting role models in the form of famous people. So the note that I put here, I would like to read to you. So when presenting role models, we risk to actually reinforce the idea that only exceptional individuals can beat the odds and make it, okay? So rather than focusing on exceptional single examples, Marie Curie, one above all, Jocelyn Bell, Vera Rubin, act on a more direct representation by having female role models, for instance, or whatever other role model, okay, involving the activity. Do you see what I mean? Let's try and avoid to personalize science in general. I will get back to this, because every single time we cite as a model Marie Curie, we reinforce the idea that she's the one and only, and she was a genius, which she was, obviously. And so if you do not identify with that, you feel even more discouraged to go in that direction. Another point, please be positive in your attitude and your discourse, and please avoid highlighting, even though it's true, but avoid highlighting the unfairness of or difficulties that some groups of people encounter, because this will discourage the people we want to involve. Another point, which is very hard in most of our languages, is inclusive language. I know that there isn't necessarily a consensus on this point, but I truly believe that it's very important that people feel included in your discourse. And there are simple tricks you can use. In our languages that are gendered, you can try and talk about ideas rather than people. And I put an example. Instead of saying, when you are a scientist, or when a researcher does this, you can say when you work in science, or like science jobs imply this. Okay, I hope I made myself clear. And if you really cannot do this, it doesn't take a long time to try and include more like both genders. I mean, in English, I cannot say it because obviously it's a neutral language. And I know that it can cost some time and like it's a bit tiresome sometimes, but I think it's worth the effort that you say, like, you know, in our languages, you would say a physicist, like a male physicist and a female physicist, right? Okay. So I go back to the lone genius narrative. We know that one of the causes of our community not being diverse is not just role models, it's really this idea, fake idea I would add, of science being the territory of lone geniuses. So it seems like we went from Galileo to Newton to Einstein and nothing in between, or Marie Curie and whatever. Obviously, we know that this is not true, but we need to convey this to the people. So we should try and like strive for a narrative that avoids the history of the lone genius and the advantage of a collaborative and plural effort for a common goal. In this sense, I would encourage you to stay clear of pictures of Galileo and Newton and whatever, and maybe present more modern pictures of big collaborations where like people look in all different ways. Last but not least, we need to make an active effort to monitor the group dynamic to avoid stereotypical behavior. So when you talk to a group of people, and even more if you do some experiments, some hands-on, please be aware of the group dynamic and guide it without being too obvious, to be more inclusive and more equitable. For instance, distribute the time to speak to everyone and make sure that you give attention to everyone in your audience. And if people are doing like group activities, be aware that make sure that you assign specific tasks, avoiding stereotypes, because usually we know that when you have like kids doing or teenagers doing group activities, the boys take the measurements and the girls take the notes. Avoid this as much as you can, okay? And even though it seems counterintuitive, there are times where gender homogeneous groups work better to stay clear of stereotypical thread. When you work in a same gender group, all of a sudden, all these gender stereotypes don't play a role anymore. So even though it seems a bit 19th century, reflect on the fact that sometimes putting boys with boys and girls with girls can be beneficial. Okay, just quickly, we also put guidelines about ecological responsibility. As I'm sure you agree, nowadays we cannot not take a stand in the climate crisis. As scientists, we have, I believe we have the duty to give the example, and we have the duty to do our part. So these are very simple things. Obviously, everything I said is based on best effort. It would be ideal to have a very diverse group of people, but obviously not everybody has a female, a male, a young, older, this and that. So it's based on best effort, but just be aware of those things. Okay, transportation, I'll go quick. Try and choose venues that are accessible by public transportation. Try to kind of tell people to use public transportation, and whenever possible, try and select the location that are more eco-friendly and that have good practices about recycling and so on and so forth. Recycle as much as you can. So if you can, make sure that you have different bins and invite people to recycle. If in your activities you foresee like some, I don't know, buffet or something like that, try and avoid as much as you can single-use plastic. Try and choose like for catering, like local business that have a strong organic and vegetarian offer. Try and reduce food waste by calculating, not ordering in excess, because better too much than too little. And then you can look into food banks and shelters to donate the leftovers. Energy efficient equipment, obviously, whenever possible, try and prefer energy efficient lighting, sound, projector, and so on and so forth. We specify, this is all in the guidelines, in the little leaflet. Some of the actions are considered symbolic, but it's very important that we give the example and that we invite people to shift their point of view. And so that goes into raising awareness and pledge for ecological responsibility. So during your activities, whenever possible, you can take the opportunity to educate the participants and to provide information and to encourage them to make little gestures in their everyday life. Sorry if I was quick, but everything is written in the document that I sent. Okay, that's all. It was a lot. I realize it was a lot, but I really invite you to go and take a look at the guidelines, because everything is written down, and so you can just have it on your side if you need a reminder. So now Francesca will talk specifically about accessibility, and then we will open for questions.
Yes, I will be very brief because I would prefer to maybe to leave time for discussion. So as Julia said, we wrote a deliverable within the PICO project. You can find all the references. In this first slide, I put some information about to give you a bit of context, but I think I will skip this to go directly to the guidelines. So what is important to know from here is that accessibility is a principle that is included into the UN standard rules on the equalization of opportunities for persons with disabilities that are non-binding legal instrument that was signed by the European Union and member states. So it's not an international agreement, but the rules can just give some guidance on the policies adopted by the member states. When we say accessibility, we refer both to the physical environment, so physical accessibility, and digital accessibility. That means access to information and communication. Accessibility was also one of the key areas of the European disability strategy for the past decade, and was implemented through very relevant initiatives that you may know. One of these is the Web Accessibility Directive, and the other one is the European Accessibility Act. Just coming to the guidelines, as I told you, there are two dimensions of accessibility that we have to consider when we organize events. During the nights, but also during the other activities of the PICO project, such as activity at schools, participation in festival or other events. One of these is the digital accessibility, and here there are a lot of guidelines that are already defined at the EU and also at national level. And there are also international technical norms that contains guidelines to make website accessible for all. So, this of course applies to the main PICO website, but also to the national web page, and this depends on the national context. This means that maybe in Italy we have some rules that you don't have in Greece, but more or less we, being all EU member states, we all have to comply with the directive, European directive. Then accessibility of physical location. This is actually required by the convention. This is an international convention on the rights of persons with disabilities. And in this field, the standards and guidelines already exist in all EU member states, including our countries. Here, there are a few PICO accessibility guidelines. For digital accessibilities, PICO partners, so all of us, are invited to make all the educational and dissemination materials developed within the project accessible for all. For example, also through audible contents when possible, that could be available for people that has disabilities. For visits to university, research center, and research infrastructures, as IGO, for example, that is host the Virgo interferometer, as you know, but also to labs. It's important to make them accessible to individuals with reduced mobility by ensuring, for example, that wheelchair users can access the infrastructures through ramps, elevators, wide doors, and also by making sure that venues are spacious enough to host a lot of people, that people, especially, for example, senior citizens or kids, can sit and rest when needed without having to step away. So also considering the kind of activities. Then another guideline is for multiple stimuli for different abilities, no? Interactive labs and other activities that are offered on site and during the European Researchers' Night in other venues must be accessible to individuals with disabilities, for example, by offering materials that are accessible to people with visual impairments. We have developed, for example, a tactile interferometer model with description in Braille, and a tactile model illustrating the gravitational wave shape. And this is available for visually impaired persons. Finally, events designed for science festival and the general public must be inherently accessible to people with disabilities. For example, at PICO, we have designed an interactive lab that is based on sound instead of visual elements. This way, visually impaired persons and kids can participate to these activities. There are only few guidelines, but they can be applied everywhere and by everyone, basically. For information about the different tactile interferometers, so you can ask to my colleagues that are expert. And for documentation and reference, you can just have a look to the deliverable. I think that we have only a few minutes for discussion. So, Giulia, I will leave the floor to the participants.
Okay, yes, please, comments or experiences that you had or things you don't agree with. Or maybe you already included, like, things you've foreseen. Yes, Manolis.
There was, this was not from something I facilitated, this was from something that I participated as a visitor, actually. So in the National Observatory of Athens, in the facilities of Pendeli, we have a very big telescope and so on. So during an open night, there was, you know, big telescope and the floor can go up and down. They have, so there was a person in a wheelchair. First of all, in order to go up to the observatory, you had to go up through stairs. So in order to include this person, the facilitators made sure to lower the floor to the ground floor in order for the person to be able to go in and then go up. And it was something amazing to witness, actually, from my part. I was really happy about that. So I think this is the heart of this accessibility. I think that all our activities should follow a similar approach.
I want to comment. That's an amazing way to do things. Just very. It sounds incredibly silly, but just even make sure that there are chairs where people, like senior people, can rest. If you have several booths and stuff like that, we sometimes don't think of simple things. Just make sure that people or kids, you know what I mean, can rest for 5 minutes and still be able to listen to you. Can I ask, like, who wants, how they construct, like, how will be your team during the night? Did you think about how the team is composed? What kind of representation you're giving within the constraints of your team, obviously? Anyone? No?
How do you mean it? I mean, how many men, how many women?
So yes, younger, not younger, coming from different countries, speaking different languages. Yeah, whatever kind of diversity you have in your hands. Did you? Okay, the first question could be, did you think about these aspects when you were creating your team, or not really, and you're just doing with what you have?
At PICO, we will have a diverse team in terms of gender and age, and also nationality for what is possible in. I mean, in a team with, in general, mostly Italians, but we have 2 people who are not Italian. So on in a, I think a team of like 6 or 7 people in total, I think it's not bad.
I completely agree.
It was on purpose, yes and no, because the thing is that in general we try to involve a diverse team of people in outreach, and therefore those people are then involved in all outreach activities. So it is in a more general way, not just in European Researchers Night. Of course, if you have all the people that are involved in outreach are all white men in their 50s, then you can't have a diverse team for European Researchers Night.
Does anybody else want to comment?
Also, I'd like to add something. We also have a pre-event. Susanna it just let go, goes. But Susanna is one of the persons involved in these pre-events, and this at school, and this on purpose. This event is for kids at school, so both male and female, but researchers involved are only female. Because we want to show that being physicist doesn't mean being Einstein. You can be, this is both for girls and boys, that there are plenty of female scientists. So this was made on purpose. And this is, you know, sometimes diversity pass by things like these. I mean, we want to show that there are researchers that come from different places. In this case, also Susanna is not Italian, and they do what male colleagues do.
Any other comments, even in general? Did I say anything that was new to you, or that you hadn't really spent much time thinking about it, or everything was already very well, like, in your mind? Yes, Abby.
So for me, it is like what you said, the simplest thing, like a chair for the people that I didn't have it in my mind. Like I was thinking, oh, also the idea that they, not the idea, but the thing that they have also sounds for people that they cannot hear. That was incredible. It was very, very nice. And I find it very interesting. But it is this, my mind would go to the more complex solutions rather than think, okay, yes, a simple chair can help also. So it kind of built a different mindset now, or how to think the accessibility one. So thank you.
Thanks, that's really nice. Anybody else? Somehow I would really like to hear from a man, because this is not against anyone. But yes, Manal, it's okay. I'll accept you as a representation of man, even though I know you too well.
Thank you very much. So,
I know what you think, so.
Well, regarding the diversity of our team, we will target a Greek audience. So everyone will be Greek and white. Not everyone will be male. We will have both male and female. So this is part of our the way we designed it. We will also have various ages from almost 60 to 20 something. And we will also have some kids presenting parts of projects they have done throughout the year, last year. So this is the way we have done this. Regarding accessibility now, all the facilities of EA are accessible to people with a wheelchair or with mobility problems, and we have made provisions in order to provide a way for them to sit down and so on. There will also be, so there is an elevator to take them to the observatory and so on. So we have done these things.
Do I hear someone or nobody? No, eh?
Okay, so we are in perfect time to close this workshop. I really would like to thank you all for your participation, and I hope this was interesting. And just in case you have any questions, please feel free to ask. all of us. And once again, please don't forget to fill in the questionnaire. And Manolis, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would like to say that also thank you very much for joining. This is part of a process. This workshop is part of a process. So while we are organizing all the PICO Researchers Nights throughout 2024 and 2025, we want to work together with you and learn from each other. So this workshop will be followed up by two more, one after the organization of the first night and one at the end, in which we will have the opportunity to pool our experience into something meaningful that will hopefully help other researchers and practitioners in the field. To this end, as Francesca said, please take a few minutes to answer the questionnaire to see the views that you have from this activity. And we hope that we will be able to continue this fruitful collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you also to Trustit for the organization and for the Zoom links. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.